Okay, now we're just going to talk about Act 5 of The Tempest and just look at the overview and how the play draws to a close. So the very first lines of Act 5, Scene 1, Shakespeare gives Prospero the lines, "Now does my project gather to a head." And we see that Prospero has manufactured all the events on the island to this point, and he certainly believes that he can govern via a dictatorship. And ultimately he does succeed in plotting and achieving his revenge on those who have wronged him. This, however, is a short-term and very narrow-sighted view of leadership. And so really there is an exploration of what leadership is, and if you want to be a real leader, you must empower others. And this is the realisation that grows on Prospero throughout the play. It isn't just a magical pivotal moment in the play. I think it's more that he observes the relationships of other people and the interactions that he has with others, and so it's a culmination of these things that leads to him coming to this realisation. So obviously with Miranda, his relationship with her, he sees her innocence, and then when she's match made with Ferdinand, he understands and he witnesses a relationship built on mutual respect and trust, which really has an impact on him. He also has relationships with Caliban and Ariel, and these grow over time as well. And it really culminates with Ariel saying, "Your charm so strongly works them." So your charm has such an impact on the king and his men. Your charm so strongly works them that if you now behold them, your affections would become tender. And Prospero says, "Do you think so?" And she said, "Well, I would, were I human." And so this is the climax of Prospero's journey of self-discovery, and where he gets to that point that he understands that he comes up with this line, "The rarer action is in virtue than in vengeance." So he's been so focused on his own wounded pride and seeking revenge that he doesn't realise that it's not going to be a positive outcome for everyone. And I suppose this is the moment that awakens him to the realisation that the leadership is far more than what he has been involved in. And so as a byproduct of that, he understands that seeing the good in people leads to the best outcome. So despite his agreements and his personal injustices that he's experienced, he will now be magnanimous. He will forgive. He will move forward. Rather than dwelling on the past, he's going to project into the future. And, Shakespeare delivers this also in the character of Gonzalo. So all that time we have this morally virtuous character who is the embodiment of a modern man and the potential of the good of humanity, which draws us back to that idea of humanism. Shakespeare then, Prospero then says, "I'll break my staff, I'll bury it certain fathoms in the earth, and deeper than ever did plummet sound, I'll drown my book." And in saying that, he's rejecting artifice. He's decided that he would turn his back on his magic and he's going to live in the real world. He's going to embrace humanity. So he'll focus on relationships and working with people in the essence of forming a good government. And he'll do so in a democratic and more sort of lateral manner rather than having a hierarchy. Okay, he is a realist though. He does understand that when they return to the court, that all these issues and the hierarchy and the power, the place for power, they're not going to go away. But he's more realistic in his dealings with people and how it works. He also knows that not everyone is honest. So we get to the point near the end of Act 5 where he does forgive his brother Antonio, but he states to him that, "Unnatural as thou art, I do forgive you." So he's basically saying there that he accepts Antonio for who he is and understands that he will not be able to change him. But he does forgive him for his actions, which is a noble gesture. And it's really interesting to compare Antonio to Caliban, because earlier in the play, Prospero had said that Caliban was a devil, a born devil on whose nurture can never stick. And so really he's saying that Caliban is a creature of nature, and his actions, he cannot be civilised. And the idea is that he is amoral, whereas Antonio is a civilised character. He has had the benefits of education, and that's led to him behaving in an immoral action, immoral manner. So that sort of reignites, re-emphasises the nature versus nurture debate that has been present in the play. And maybe we come to the conclusion that it's not about nature and nurture, more so it's about judging people on their individual characteristics and looking at the benefits that come from them and whether they want to improve themselves or not, which ties back into that idea of humanism. Okay, Caliban is then freed by Prospero, and Caliban's response, he's given the island back, and he says, "I'll be wise hereafter and seek for grace." So Caliban as well has come to a point of realisation about people and also his actions, and he certainly won't be fooled. He'll be more guarded in his relationships with people in future. So basically everybody in the play has had a discovery which has led to a change in their way of thinking. Now finally, in the epilogue, Prospero seeks his audience's forgiveness and he asks them to set him free. And the purpose of that, I suppose, is in concluding the play, is to establish that he is going to return to Naples, and he states that, in his retirement, he states that where every third thought shall be of my grave. So he is passing on his responsibilities and his position of Duke to the younger generation. And typical of many Shakespearean plays, the younger generation is seen to carry the hope for the future. Now, this also is William Shakespeare's final play. So we can see the epilogue as Shakespeare talking directly to his audience and saying that he's going to turn his back on his art, his involvement in drama and in, challenging audiences with the ideas that he presents, so that he too can retire and focus on, his family and preparing for death. At the end of the play, we expect that Ferdinand and Miranda will rule as king and queen. And earlier in the play, there is a chess game, and we might have a look at that in class. But certainly go and find those lines where they're playing chess, because it shows that despite Miranda's innocence and her good nature, she's very aware of the political machinations of the court. And so we see that Ferdinand and Miranda will rule in a wise manner, and they'll understand and they'll be aware of the political machinations. However, they have an understanding of the importance of morality, justice, honesty and friendship. And that brings us to the end of the play.